Hi, it's Kathy here, and thanks for joining me for the final part of my planner tutorial. I hope you enjoy making this, and thanks for watching. And then we'll cut the strip that I had across the center here. So that's going to be 1/2 by 5 1/8. And we're going to ink this. And we're going to adhere this. And we're going to adhere this just up from the bottom edge of the top piece here, about 1/4 of an inch, and even side to side. So we just want a little bit of it showing when we close our flaps. So now I'm going to go ahead and sew around these outside edges, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've sewn all around the outside edges of this, and I'm going to tape these thread ends to the back. And we're going to embellish this side after we finish the box. So I'm going to go ahead and just close these flaps. And now we're going to do the box on the bottom here. Okay, the first part of the box that we're going to create is the flap portion. So you'll cut a piece of cardstock 4 by 6 inches. And on the 6-inch side of the cardstock piece, we're going to score a line at 3 3/4 and a line at 4 inches. Now we're going to die cut this 4-inch edge of the cardstock that is closest to the score lines. So I'm using the smaller die in this set. This is about 4 1/2 inches long. So you would find the center of this 4-inch edge and line it up with the center of the die that I've marked. Again, tape it and run it through the die cutting machine. So I've already done that. And we're going to want to put the die cut edge at the bottom. And here's our score lines. So now you'll cut a piece of pattern paper, 1 3/4 by 3 3/4, and you will die cut the bottom edge of this piece, the bottom 3 3/4 inch edge. And so I would want this here, and then line it up and die cut it, which I've done. And I'm going to ink the edges of this. Put a little adhesive on it here. And then we're going to adhere this in the section with that die cut edge. So about 1/8 of an inch, or just centered in the section below the score lines here. Okay, and our flap is going to open up, so we're going to turn this cardstock piece over like this, and we're going to adhere a magnet. Let me get some score tape on the magnet. Okay, so I have some score tape on a magnet, and I'm going to put this as close to the top, leaving enough space, since probably it's about 1/4 of an inch from the die cut edge. I want enough space when I sew around this that I'm not going to pierce through that magnet. So if you're not sewing, this isn't going to be a problem. You can get it fairly close to the edge, but you will want to leave a little bit of space so your paper covers it. But should be about 1/4 of an inch from the die cut edge. And now you'll cut another piece of pattern paper, 1 3/4 by 3 3/4, and you'll die cut the top 3 3/4 inch edge, which I've already done. And I'll ink here. And I'm going to put adhesive on that magnet and then on this paper piece. And I'm going to go closer to this die cut edge just to make sure that I am far enough over that magnet that my needle isn't going to pierce it. Okay, and I'm going to go sew around this section of the cardstock piece, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I've sewn around the edges from this side of the cardstock piece, and I'm going to wrap these threads around to the inside of the flap and put a piece of score tape there, and then trim these thread ends. And this time, because this is such a small flap, I'm going to just use one of the stickers from the collection to cover those threads. We'll use this spiffy sticker. Okay, now we're going to cut a piece of pattern paper for this section, and this one is a 3.5 by 3 3/4 inch sheet. So I'm going to ink the edges of this. And I'm going to put some adhesive on this. And then we're just going to center this piece in the section here below the score lines. And now I'm going to sew around the outside edges of this section. Okay, so I've sewn around the outside edges of this section, and I'm going to tape off my threads on the back. And then now we're going to work on the bottom of the box. So we're going to set this piece aside, and you'll need to cut a piece of cardstock 4.5 by 5.5, and on this 5.5 inch side we're going to score a line at 1/2 inch, and then a line at 3/4 inch, and then a line at 4 3/4, and then a line at 5 inches. Okay, and we're going to rotate the paper, and on the 4.5 inch side we're going to score a line at 1/2, and at 3/4. Okay, I'm going to move this scoring board out of the way. Now you have intersecting score lines here. So we're going to take scissors, and so I'm going to cut along this innermost score line here until it connects with the innermost score line here. And we're going to cut away these corners. And we're going to do this on the other side. Innermost score line here, innermost score line here. So now we're left with a piece with the two corners that have been cut away. So now we want to die cut this top edge of the box. I'm going to use the same die on the 4.5 inch long one. And we want to put this cutting edge down. So you have your cutaway corners down here at the bottom. And we're going to turn this die like so. And we're going to place this, and it fits exactly between the outermost score lines. And we're going to place this about 1/2 inch down from the top edge, and just as straight as you can. And then we're going to tape this down, and we're going to die cut this. So I'm going to do that and be right back. I want to show you a different way of creating the bottom portion of the box if you're not using the same die that I used. You're going to have to slightly adjust the measurements and how this is constructed. So what I'll do is, on this top edge, I've already scored my lines. I'm going to take my ruler, and on the innermost score line on the top edge, I'm going to use a pencil and make a mark at 1/2 inch down from the top. And I'm going to do that again on the other innermost score line here. I'm going to measure down 1/2 inch, make another mark, and then just connect these marks here with a straight line, because we're going to need to cut this so that the top of this bottom portion of the box isn't right up against the flap. So I'm going to take scissors, and on the innermost score line, I'm going to cut down to my drawn line and do the same on this side, innermost score line, and then cut along the line that I've drawn here so we can remove a portion of this. Now you can leave it like this if you like. What I'm going to do is put my centering ruler on this piece again and find the center. Just make a little mark here with a pencil, and I'm going to take a 1-inch circle punch and punch just a portion of that circle, not even half, because there's going to be, the magnet is going to be on this portion of the box, so you want to make sure you have room for your magnet. So I'm going to take about 1/4 of that centered on that line and punch a little bit of a circle here. And this will allow room for your fingers to pull out if you're going to have pieces of paper or business cards or however you're going to use this box. So that's another option for you, and you'll have to do that to adjust if you're not placing the die on there. So now we have the cardstock piece, and you can see here that I've got the die cut edge here, but it's still connected because the die didn't run the whole length of the piece. So we need to remove the rest with scissors, and what I'm going to do is cut along the outermost score line, cut straight down, and then I'm just going to kind of angle over to where that die cut the edge. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm going to cut along the outermost score line and then just kind of angle in and remove this piece. So now we're left with a piece that looks like this. And the die, when you place this die cutting side down, you'll see a little bit of an impression from the die, but we're going to cover that anyway. So next thing we need to do is turn this piece over, and we're going to fold up on these 2 score lines here on the end. Just get them folded on the lines there. And we're going to place a little bit of adhesive here. I'm not going to put much on here because we're just positioning the magnet, so I want to be able to pull this back off again. So I'm going to put just like 2 little bits of ATG on here so I can get this back off. And then you'll take this piece and face up, we're going to adhere it on that first little section up to the first score line that we put the adhesive on. Alright, now we're going to fold this up and keep it in a little box shape there with those score lines. And now we're going to attach a magnet to this top flap. So I'm going to attach a magnet on that top flap. I'm going to put some score tape on it and remove the tape liner. And then you're going to fold this flap down on the 2 score lines, and you want to kind of get that box shape there. So you're not folding it completely flat down. It's going to have that 1/4 inch folded area there at the top. And then we're going to press the flap down on the top of the box to adhere the magnet, and then gently lift up on that. So now you have your magnet on the outside of the box, and there will be enough room for you to sew along that if you're going to do that. So what we can do now is unfold this again, and I'm going to go ahead, because I'm sewing this piece, I don't want all of this attached yet, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove this piece and set it aside for now. So turning this back over, I'm going to get that adhesive off of there. So turning this back over, we're going to cut a piece of paper here for the top. I've done a couple of different layers. So the first piece, 1.5 by 3 3/4, and we want to die cut the top edge. I'm going to take that 4.5 inch die again, and you'll notice which direction I'm putting it on top of here. I'm going to line up the center mark on the piece of paper with the center of the die, and only this time I'm in this cutting edge down again. I'm lining up the edge of the die with the edge of the paper, and this is going to put it in the center, and then I'm just going to tape that and run that through a die cutting machine. So I've run the paper through the die cutting machine, and when you're cutting it with the cutting edge down on the paper like this, the opposite way, you can kind of see that I've got a little bit where it die cut through this area. I'm not too concerned about that because I'm going to cover that with a sticker anyway. So we're just going to hold that together so it doesn't fall apart on us. And I'm going to ink the edges of this piece. And I'm going to put a little adhesive here on this magnet and a little adhesive on the paper. And then we're going to adhere this to the die cut edge here, centered between the score lines. And I want to get it pretty close. I want room enough to sew, but the magnet is pretty close up there again, so I've got to kind of snug it up there pretty good. And we'll be covering that. You can kind of see the little cut there. So now we're going to overlap another piece here to the bottom. And this one is 2 1/4 by 3 3/4. So I'm going to ink the edges of this piece. Get some adhesive on this. Okay, and I'm going to bring it 1/8 of an inch up from this bottom score line, and then make sure it's even side to side with the top paper piece. And that looks good. And now I'm going to cut a sticker 3 3/4 inches long, and we're just going to put it over this part here. So for this, I'm going to use this sticker off of the sticker sheet. And I'm just going to use the yellow and red portion, and I'm just going to mark this with a pencil and then cut it. So we need this 3 3/4, and then I will just cut this straight down. Some scissors. And I actually don't. I might want to use that blue one for something else, so I'm not going to cut through the blue one. Cut that. And now we'll get this on this piece. And I'm just going to put it, I'm going to put the red strip there right above where the black piece is. And get that on there. Okay, now I'm going to go and sew around the edges of this section. Okay, so I've sewn around this section, and I'm going to, my threads end here. I'm going to wrap it right here in the corner to the back and cut these. Now what we want to do is place this piece again with the die cut edge at the bottom, and we're going to put adhesive now on this 1/2 inch section up to the first score line there. So go ahead and put a good amount of adhesive on that. And now I'm going to take the flat piece again, and I'm going to just line up the edge of it with the first score line and get that adhered. Okay, and now I'm going to put 1/4 inch score tape on these 1/2 inch sections on each side. And we're going to remove the tape liners. Before you remove the tape liners, go ahead and fold these on the score lines on the sides, and keep that 1/4 inch for the box shape there. And now remove your tape liners. Okay, we're going to fold this up, keep the flaps out, and then just turn it over just like this. And now we're going to fold these 1/2 inch sections to the back and just line up the edge of this cardstock piece with the first score line, and we're going to adhere. And it's going to be a little difficult because the box wants to collapse on you, and then we're going to do this side. And then once you've got it partially on there, then you can turn it over and press it down a bit better to get it adhered together. And then you have your box there. Just make sure that's down good. And then the flap that closes. So now we will get the box attached to the inside of the front cover, and we'll finish with embellishing. Now we want to get this cardstock piece adhered into the inside of the front cover. So we're just going to turn it over and apply 1/4 inch score tape to the outside edges. I'm going to add a little ATG in the center. Remove these, oops, remove these tape liners. Okay, and I'll get my planner over here. And we'll do the same thing that we did on the back. We're going to line it up on the left side, about 1/8 of an inch, and even top and bottom with the edge of the cardstock piece there. I think that's about good, so then we'll press that down. Okay, I have some embellishments already kind of ready to go here. So I'm using this chipboard tag. I'm using this clock sticker in the collection. There's our seam binding from earlier. I've got that little chipboard tag. And then I've cut out 2 images again from the About Time paper that I used on the front cover. So first thing I'm going to do is get this chipboard tag with the seam binding. So I'm just going to tie this through. I'm going to use a piercing tool to just stick that through there and tie a knot. And I'm going to put some 1/4 inch score tape on the back of this tag. Let's slide this out of the way real quick. And in the Ladies Diary planner, I used one of the chipboard tags in the collection on that top flap. So I'm going to place this here, and I'm just going to adhere this centered to the flap. Just kind of eyeball it. Looks about good. And I'm going to trim these ends up really quick because they're kind of frayed. And that'll lay back down when it relaxes a little bit, or I can first get that adhered better. There we go. I'll mess with that later. Okay, so now I want to get the box to the bottom part here, but before I do that, I want a couple of images off to the side, and it's these little ones that I've cut out from the About Time sheet. So I want them to be kind of peeking out from underneath the box. Actually, I want this one up here. And I want to do this one down here in the corner. So now I'm just going to remove this, and I actually need to ink the edges of these. I forgot to do that. I'm going to use a glue pen again on this. And I'm just going to adhere that there. And a little ink here. And then I want this one down here. It's kind of peeking out. Okay, now we're going to get the box adhered. So on the back side of the box, I'm going to put 1/4 inch score tape. Along the edges here. And I'm just going to put 1 extra piece across the center there. And we'll get these tape liners off. And now I'm going to center it on the bottom portion here. And I got enough showing there. And just kind of gently press it down. You don't want to mash it. Okay, now I'm going to add a little chipboard tag like I did in the Ladies' Diary. So I've already inked the edges with a black marker. I'm going to add a little score tape to the back of that. And just adhere this about 1/4 inch up from the die cut edge on the flap and centered. Okay, and then on the Ladies' Diary I cut out one of the ladies' images and a few of the flowers, and I also had some flowers here on the side. For this one I want to use the clock sticker. So I've already adhered the sticker to a piece of black cardstock and cut around the edges. And I've done that with both portions of the clock sticker, so I'm going to add a little bit of ATG to the back of this. I'm going to open the flap here, and then I'm going to just kind of angle this a little bit where it hangs a little bit over the left side and the bottom edge there. And then I want to use dimensional adhesive on the back of this just to give it a little bit more interest. So I'm going to put that on there now. And I'll get this adhered, line it up there, back to the center of the sticker. Okay, and now we'll get the notepad in and the pen, and we'll finish this up. I hope you've enjoyed creating this. I'm going to get my pen in here. And then of course the notepad that I picked up at Michael's. And then you still have this color too if you're using this collection. I liked that bright green over here on the side. Alright, and we're good. And there we go.